We good to roll?
Do it.
All right. Brotherly love. What is it? And is it really that important? Let's talk about that.
You are watching the Beyond Sunday podcast.
So, loving one another is the ultimate commandment that was given to us by Jesus.
I've heard that before. Yeah, that's fair.
Turns out it's super important, and I know there's a handful of different types of love. We kind of use this word a lot, but
No doubt.
brotherly love especially is super, super important. So we're going to chat a little bit about that today.
Sounds cool. Yeah, because there's, when you think about it, for us in our language, we use the word love. And the thing I've been thinking about is the fact that, you go, oh, I love my wife. I love tacos. Yeah, I would love to go to the movies. It seems a little thin stretched, a little overly used. The Greeks were a lot more specific. So I'm going to nerd out for just a minute. 7 different Greek words for love, 4 we see in Scripture. So the first one that we've got is eros. That's romance. It's that affection you have for someone else. We've got storge. That's kind of that affection that you have for family members. We've got agape, which is God's love for people, that kind of unconditional love. Yep. We'll cover that another time. And then we have philia, and philia is the brotherly love you were just talking about. So, and, it's kind of interesting as you look at philia, it feels a little bit different. Like, eros, there's this desire one person to the other, and you're looking about what you get out of it. But, this brotherly love, it's kind of a common interest. Not that we're exactly the same.
Right.
Clearly not for you and I.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yes.
That's not funny. But clearly true. But, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're same, but there is some kind of, there's common bond in there somewhere. And, I think that in the past, I think people got that a lot more. I don't know about you, but for me, it seems like a lot of people, you have acquaintances.
Yep.
But when you really think, no kidding, friends.
Yep.
I think it's a little skinnier in this day and age.
Yeah, I know. I tend, like when I have some of my closest friends, as I look back when I was going through school, my closest friends basically did everything that I did.
Okay.
And that was kind of the depth of our bond. It was, you play on the golf team, I play on the golf team. We're obviously meant to be best friends.
Right.
Because we do the same things. And it turns out they really didn't last very long.
Right.
Because I graduated, they graduated, praise the Lord. And honestly, we just kind of moved on.
Was that like a worry, not going to make it through?
There was a chance.
There's a fair chance. All right. Fair enough. Okay.
I survived. The natural difference is it kind of makes me think of John 21.
Okay.
There's a scene, and Jesus is talking to Peter, and he's asking him, and this is just a subtle difference as you kind of started nerding out on the Greek a little bit. When you look at the actual desired way that love was being used in this story, Jesus is talking to Peter, and he says, "Do you love me?" And Peter's like, "Dude, yeah, absolutely, I love you." And when you dive in, Jesus is saying, agape love, do you love me the way that I love you? And he goes, "You're my boy."
Right.
Like,
total
dude,
bros, man.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So he's talking about a totally different love when he responds to Jesus.
Yes.
And so again, this happens 3 times, and Jesus goes, no, do you love me? And he's like, dude, come on, back off. Yeah, I love you.
Right.
Totally. But he responds again with a different type of love than what God's talking about. And there's a super pivotal moment that is really cool and important when you dive in. You see that Jesus then, the 3rd time, takes a step down.
Right. Just kind of meets him right where he's at.
And meets him right where he's at. And he says, okay, we're not here yet.
Right.
But do you love me?
But we're good. Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, you bet. Totally.
It's interesting. You were talking about like your friendships in school. So, at this point in life, one of my very best friends in high school, still love the guy. He's a great guy. But one of the things that you find is that as we've traveled these different roads, we don't quite have that exact same commonality anymore. Still love talking with him, visiting with him. Rob, you're awesome. But when we talk, it's a lot about something peripheral. Some of those hobbies. We talk about film and television shows we used to love and things, and it's a lot of nostalgia. You talk a lot about the past, but not about what's holding you together currently.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. That brotherly love, the understanding we used to have is that we're in a journey. Mm-hmm. There's something that binds us here. And yet now it's more of, like I said, it is more of the golf team. We're hanging out together.
Yeah.
Hey, we go and, we play golf on a regular basis. We go hang out at the movies, but that brotherly love actually has this kind of shoulder to shoulder, side by side. We're doing something deeper together than that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have to think about it because it feels like there's an immediate choice that has to be made.
Okay.
That says, am I going to put in the work to give this a shot?
Okay. Yeah.
And
that's fair.
It reminds me, honestly, of the first week that I started here at Christ Church.
Oh, that decision didn't go well quick. Yeah.
So when I started, I remember being in the front office and kind of still getting to know people. Who could forget the most uncomfortable, heartfelt moment that I've ever experienced?
Ever? And really? There have been worse since then.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'll paint the picture. We're standing in the front office.
Now remember, I'm here, so if you're lying...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'll let you guys know. All right, hit it.
So we're standing in the front office and joking around, and Norm and I are naturally polar opposite in most ways.
That's actually fair, yeah.
And I decided and made up my mind and made a declaration
out loud
in front of several people that one day Norm and I are going to be best friends.
Besties.
To which he promptly and also out loud in front of everyone responds,
nope.
No, we won't.
Yep.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. A little bit of animosity there.
Yeah.
Slightly hostile in the morning.
It, even in fun joking, maybe not all of it was a joke. I'm just saying.
Maybe not all of it. That, to be fair, confession time. Yeah, probably not all of it.
Yeah. But it was one of those moments where our natural opposition and total differences, I like a good challenge.
Right.
But it's one of those things that if that was ever actually going to be reality, stuff was going to have to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, because like you said, I think there was, unfortunately, there was almost a natural opposition, and I'm going to own that. I mean, and that's on me. Because, totally not my fault. I'm off the hook. That's good for you. See, isn't this so good for everybody? But yeah, for me, it was just our backgrounds were different, and there were things, when we've talked about this since then, that there were just some challenges and things going on, and it was unfortunate because there was some things that were going on, things I didn't like, things that I was dealing with that was like, these things are bad. And I don't like to deal with them. And then, you come bebopping along, and it was unfortunately a case of judgment. Judging's never good. That as you came in, it's like, oh, this is the same as this thing. This is that. And these two things are the same. So I don't like this. This is already on my nerves. This also is on my nerves. And so, unfortunately, I chucked you in the exact same bucket.
Oh, I know.
You just felt that all the way through every fiber of your being.
I'm a resilient little gerbil. I'll climb right out of that bucket.
Right. Well, yeah, you were just being thick-headed and said, no, I made a declaration, and that's totally happening.
Yeah.
And, it reminds me that, we talked about this, something that's been on my mind a ton. I'm doing some sermon writing stuff now right now, that James 4. James says, hey, what is it that causes the quarrels among you? He says the desires of your heart. And, thinking about that, there was nothing that was actually physically there. We didn't have a disagreement. We weren't opposed to anything. There wasn't a tension where we have opposing goals. It was just, something going on inside of me that said, you know what? I don't like where you're coming from. And it was a lot of it's, I don't know. I think our approach is still pretty different on a lot of things.
Did you want to be the worship pastor? Were you jealous that
Yeah, that was it. That was
the
it.
job to be the
Everybody
worship pastor?
knows I'm a better singer in general. No, you don't. No, I'm pretty sure we all know that's people who don't even know me go, nah, that guy's not leading anything. No, that's not the case. But yeah, for me, I mean, that was on my side. I don't know. What did you see when you were in that moment?
Yeah, so I knew there was an obvious natural opposition, and
Sure.
and some, from my perspective, I don't ever get to see the inside turmoil from somebody else.
Fair
And
enough, yeah. No
sometimes what happens is, you can feel and experience the judgment
Yes.
that gets placed on, but you have no idea why.
Yeah.
And so it's
No,
like,
I get that.
huh,
Yeah. Where's that come
God
from?
doesn't like me. We'll fix that.
Was it Burrow hate a guy? Wow, yeah.
But
no doubt.
so it's like this weird invisible thing.
Yep.
So I don't know what it is, but there's something that has to be overcome
Right.
for this to work. And it's a good reminder, and has been over the last little over 3 years now.
Yeah.
That
Wow. Time flies.
thank goodness,
Uh-huh.
true brotherly love
Right.
doesn't hinge on our commonality.
No kidding.
And
yeah.
as you begin to continually to surrender parts of yourself that need to be
Right.
grown and matured,
Right.
and becoming more like Jesus, hopefully, it becomes possible to look past the fact that I don't play board games. I don't watch a ton of movies the same ways that you do. I know.
Right. And I don't
Huge
golf.
shock.
And I don't play guitar either, turns out.
Yeah. However, the fact that we have a close relationship now is a testimony and proof that
Right.
we don't have to have all things in common
Yep.
for it to be possible.
Right. Yeah, I remember hearing somebody teach, and gosh, I wish I could remember who said this. And so they were talking about the church, kind of big scale, and they said if you could take all the people in this room and you could pack them up and move them somewhere else, and they seem like they all still fit together. They said that's not the church; that's a country club. They said, but if you grab these people and you put them anywhere else, and they would have to scatter because they don't fit in this environment or that environment together, that's the church. And so you bring that down to just a one-on-one level, it's the same thing. Because really, if you and I hash things back and forth and really start making lists of, hey, I like this, we're going to have very few points of crossover.
Yeah.
But yet, at this stage, I enjoy and look forward to every single one of our collaborations. I look forward to the, just our hangout time and stuff.
Yeah.
And even, just going, oh, hey, I've got to talk with Zach because we got to have a meeting. I look forward to those times just because of, who you are and everything else. So, all right, we've already discussed how.
Point for me.
Point for Zach.
Okay.
Yeah. I've noticed that all the points are on your side right now. This is really not good. So let's talk about the shift.
Good for me.
Yeah, it's good for you. I'm not. But so let's talk about the shift. I know how it shifted in my mind, but how did it shift in yours though? That relational piece.
Yeah, so I remember, I can look back on one particular day. We had a staff equip day.
Really? Okay.
And so we had our whole church staff team together, and we were back in the youth room, and we were doing a Strengths Finder assessment where we were looking at our personalities and as a challenge to reach out and get to know people that you wouldn't naturally connect with. They put the opposites on all of these things and group them together as best as possible. Naturally, we got put together.
Right. Yeah. So not only on the surface by our habits, our activities, things like that, are we different? Our actual strengths are completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember, I think you were kind of leading the conversation as we went off into our little group and we're going through these things. And the whole challenge is really get to know somebody. Challenge yourself to really get to know them. And for me, there was a significant reality shift in my heart when I saw you truly engage and ask real questions, not just I got to figure out how to handle this guy.
Yes, that's fair.
For how long we're going to end up working together.
Right.
And so there was a big shift for me as I saw you, and I don't know if this was a specific moment for you, but I saw that you had approached me totally different, and you had taken a path of humility that said, maybe he's not a total doof, and there's something there. And there was a little glimmer of hope.
Glimmer of hope.
But that was a sincere moment for me that I saw. It's like, cool. I think we got something to build off of here.
Interesting. I mean, that's really cool because that's the exact same thing for me. Is so as we were going through the Strengths Day led by my lovely bride, and so she was facilitating that. And so we had been partnered up with the people who were like us, which was, very revealing because even though we had similar strengths, you found differences and things. But yeah, then you're partnered with your opposite. And I'm like, I got partnered with Zach. And it's like, oh. And, I like the word that you use though. It's like, how am I going to handle this guy? And that's a really fair word. Because it's, hey, I've got to transact, I've got to deal with this person, I've got to navigate and manage these things, as opposed to, hey, I'm looking forward to this. And yeah, it was in that moment. It was real quick. A lot of times we think about, prayer, and it's kind of a long, drawn out, sweaty hands because you're locked together, super awkward and uncomfortable. True confessions from your pastor. Sometimes they get a little long and weird. But Nehemiah, he's in front of the king, and he just, boom, he's on the spot, says a prayer. So I think it can happen quick. And that's what happened. I was like, oh man, I gotta go hang out with Zach. And I think it's like a 15-minute exercise. This may take a while. So I'm sitting there and just real quick prayer. It's like, God, help me to see and understand this guy. I'm going to be in this moment, and I don't know why. Holy Spirit just, going, it's time to push you off this edge. You're being a butthead. Just boom, push me right off the edge. And I decided, as I step into this, I want to actually get to know this guy. I want to hear his heart. And that was my sincere hope, was if I can hear from you and understand who you are, maybe I could, see through God's eyes and go, oh, okay, this is who this guy is. He's different than I thought he was. And so, yeah, as we sat there, I said, well, I'm going to ask you questions. And we were, hey, you share your strengths and what it looks like, then I'll take my turn. But I started asking questions, and, our time was up, and you were still explaining, so you kind of did hog the time. That's all I'm saying. But the truth is, but I think that was the right way to go, because I was the one handling things. You were just sincerely going, hey, what's going on? And it was just, hey, I just need to hear from you the whole time. And yeah, somehow I couldn't pinpoint anything after that, but it was like I had a different heart, and literally it's in that moment that instead of just engaging and transacting, there was literally this philia, this brotherly love of going, I like this guy. I hear his heart. I know who he is a little bit now. And you know what? Instead of handling him, I think I'd like to just hang out with him and get to know him a little better. Yeah. So yeah, it really put, and that's the weird thing, because all I did is shift the lens that I'm wearing. Yeah. It's like I had you through one lens, put on a different one, and all of a sudden every transaction, every engagement started feeling different from my side at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a super important thing that, and I've had to experience this with many other people as well, and it seems like what you were describing and explaining is the same thing that I've felt with many other people.
So you rub a lot of people wrong is what I'm hearing.
I mean, I experience these kinds of issues all the time. So
it's fair.
This is a normal day for me. So
for me.
Again, I'm always ready to climb out of the bucket because I start in the bucket.
Starting there a lot, dude. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
But there's a moment, and probably this happens with every relationship, I think, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
There has to be a point of humility.
Yep.
Where you say, I'm going to find something in that person.
Okay, yeah.
Because if I don't,
yeah.
It can only be all about me.
Yeah.
And so and the truth is, you can spot a fake from a mile away. I mean, it's just not even close.
Right. Yeah. And, I as I think about that, I think there's a shift, when you think about fakes, you're making a mental shift from we're competing in some way. You know, because if you gain, I lose, something like that. So, you know, there can be that false face that you put on and everything else. But yeah, I think there's a shift that's really hard to do. And, you know, so for us here at Christ Church, we talk a lot about the one another's, you know, that all throughout the New Testament, you end up seeing times when Jesus or maybe Paul, somebody talks about how we should behave towards one another. And like you said, it starts with this humility, because every single time that there's that instruction, it's like, hey, you know, hey, care for one another, bear one another's burdens, think of one another as higher than yourself. And, you know, when you start thinking about that, there's a potential loss in that. It's like, well, what if I give and, you know, I'm willing to help out, but you don't hook me up in return?
Yep.
I mean, that's that competing thing, but there's a vulnerability. I guess I would say. It's like, hey, I'm trusting you that I'm going to do good for you. How do I know you're going to reciprocate? You know, and how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, you just don't. You put yourself out there, and and you may not get the reciprocation that you want, that you hope for, and you're like, well, surely if I do the right thing, whoever I do this to or with, they should follow suit. That's not always the case. It's not been my experience, because again, the humility has to run both directions. However, it's so crazy to think about. You know, back to the story that I kind of mentioned earlier, where Jesus is talking to Peter, and he's talking about a much different,
very different
love
thing, no doubt,
than Peter understands at the moment. Yet even still, I think God showed still the value of brotherly love, and how much that truly can move the needle. And so it's like, okay, I want you here because there's so much more. There's better. But let's start down here because that's where you're at. And if we engage on this level, we can seriously move the needle. And as you see success and forward progress and steps in a relationship with somebody, I think it helps remind me and open up the door that, okay, I should probably keep doing this with other people because this works.
And I think it was a great step for Peter at that moment when he's sitting there looking at the fact that, you know, and Jesus was just calling him to something so much bigger, but yet Jesus met him, like you talked about, and still was commissioning forward. He said, you know, feed my sheep, you know, care for them. You know, it wasn't where he wanted him to be, but it was good enough to get started forward. And, you know, but our goal is agape, you know, that unconditional love and everything else, because, you know, other things can crumble under strain and stress. Even brotherly love, you know, can be broken. But, you know, with agape, it can't be broken. And so that's what we're going to talk about the next time we get together, is we're going to focus on kind of that next higher level of agape love. And hopefully you'll join us for that talk, and we'll see you then.
This has been another episode of the Beyond Sunday podcast. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe.